And so we take a breath here, and I say, thank you, Father, Mother, God, Infinite Spirit, that we are all so blessed. And how grateful I am to remember that the song of gratitude, that the prayer of gratitude ultimately is ever the only prayer that we ever pray. Because what we realize from that place is that all is already given. There is no withholding, God. Nothing is being withheld, not from any of us. And so we can say in that God consciousness, in that oneness of God and I are one, Spirit and I are one, love and I are one, that there is no other ever. There is only one activity that is ever going on, and it is the extension of this in, through, and as all of creation. And this is the source and the substance of our being. This is the source and the substance of an abundant consciousness. This is it and nothing else. And so what is the source? The source is God. The source is love. The source is God consciousness. And so as we reimagine unity, we are in a transformational era. We cannot help but be, because why? We claimed it and we called it forth. And that the time is indeed now. This community has flourished through decades, through different spiritual leadership, through different people matriculating and coming into the sanctuary, the vibratory field of this sanctuary that we create together. And here we are post-pandemic, here we are post-ministerial transitions, here we are. Together say, here we are, and we are ready to be used by Spirit in a new and magnificent way as we reimagine what unity is, what our life is, and what unity renaissance is. My goodness gracious, the divine idea called renaissance, to claim that and juxtapose it with the word unity, that's bold. That is a bold thing. Unity, renaissance, unity, one with God, one with all. That is. And renaissance, continuously being made new, continuously bringing forth new emanations of that one divine idea into a myriad of diverse expressions. That we have a vision, that we have a mission, and that is what unites us and carries us forward into the next expression. And as we've been reimagining unity, we've come to discern new definitions for unity. And the most recent one that we've been looking at is that unity is an unbroken chain of giving and receiving as one. Giving and receiving as one. There's no space in between giving and then you gotta wait a whole lot, right? And then you receive. Giving and receiving are collapsed into one. That is unity, not two, one. Not two, one. And so we keep going through life, and anywhere where we perceive two-ness, we recalibrate, we realign into oneness. And so the first thing that we were reimagining was our sacred service and how we give and receive in the community, and how there is a network of relationship, a web of relationship between us all, that we're all giving and receiving to each other, and there's a joyfulness in that. And that's how we function. And we practice it here. We practice discerning our new spiritual gifts and being that unique soul print for God. And we practice it here. So that when we go in the world, when we're in our families, when we're in our jobs, when we're in the grocery line, we're practicing it there too. Because there is no other. There's only unity. There's only oneness. We're ever only meeting ourselves. And if we're ever only meeting ourselves, we're ever only meeting our Creator. Always back to the source, always back to God. And so we take a breath here. So our little mini series within this is the prayer for abundance, the prayer of abundance. So we're looking at our sacred service as a structure. And now we're looking at our abundance and prosperity as also a structure that sustains Unity Renaissance, that gives us the firm foundation from which we fulfill our vision and our mission. And next month, we'll be looking at membership, and all of these things create the foundation. But as many of you know, I've been walking around the beach with this. It's gotten like really waffled because sometimes those waves, sometimes she surprises you out of the blue and your book gets wet. And the beauty of this book, which is called the Abundance Book, which is what the next couple messages are patterned after in a class that we're going to be starting based upon this book. The beauty of this book is it fits in your pocket. And you can walk anywhere with it. You can take it anywhere with you. And so as I was reviewing this book for today's message, what I realized is that, first of all, it's a little book, chock full of absolute truths. And these absolute truths contain everything that you need. Yes, I know it's a commercial. Buy the book, come to the class, but there's a reason for it. And the reason is because everything that is in here is a nugget of spiritual truth. And when we partake of these spiritual truths and practice them in our lives, not only are we abundant and prosperous in one area, but it applies to all areas. And as I was reading this, I'm like, oh my God, it's written as a prayer. This is one prayer right here. And so I entitled this The Prayer of Abundance. And for me, prayer is the most powerful healing modality that there is. And the reason for that is because it connects us with Source and it shifts our consciousness. And from there, all miracles proceed. They just pop up everywhere. And you know how blessed you are. Which is why the only prayer is the prayer of gratitude, truly. So today we're going to choose our source. That's how we begin every prayer. We look at the conditions in our lives. We say what we want prayer for, what we want to shift, what we want to change. And that when we do that, we look at what was the common denominator? What was the source that created whatever the dis-ease was? And every time we've separated ourselves from Source, from true Source, from God consciousness. So the basis of every prayer is simply turning away from a condition that we've mistaken for Source and turning towards God. And that's it. And we do it in every area of our lives. Now, we're practicing it right now with the concept of abundance. And let's define abundance. So abundance, as defined here, is the all-sufficiency of supply. It's not a little bit of sufficiency. It's the all-sufficiency of supply. So it is the idea that all is already given, that there is no withhold in the universe at all. Nobody's holding anything back from you except ourselves. And so abundance is the all-sufficiency of supply that meets every need that you may have in this existence. Every need. There's nothing left out. It's also the full measure of infinite good. It's as if we have this cup. We're going to measure our good, and we're going to take the cup. Well, how big is the cup? The cup is as big as you can make your consciousness, as big as you can create an idea or a concept in mind. That's the cup. The measure is infinite. So we can expand our ideas into infinity, and it would be filled. A full measure of infinite good. Many people, well, not many people, but I actually define heaven as the realm of ever expanding good. It's ever expanding because I'm ever increasing my idea of what good is and where it is. And then I begin to see it everywhere. I'm the one who has to change what I'm seeing, not the other way around, because when I do, this all shifts and changes. And so abundance is the all-sufficiency of supply. It is the full measure of infinite good. And in the invisible, before we experience it in form, it's the creative energy of God itself. This is why in our teaching we say God is back of everything. That this God is consciousness, is the creator, the source and the supply of everything seen, unseen, in between and beyond. God is. And what do we say here about God? This one's an oldie, but a good one, and you guys have said it before. God is good all the time. God is good all the time. God is good all the time. So all the time, God is the creative energy that we may align with and experience good all the time. And so in form, it's the energy made manifest. It's the energy made manifest. And so the energy made manifest, you can look to your right and look to your left. There's a lot of energies made manifest right here. And we can wink and we can nod and we can say hello to one another. Because what we know is that when we connect with one another, we feel and we sense the energy of love, the energy of creativity, the energy of joy. Do we not? That's why we come to spiritual community, because here is where we experience all of these things. Now, the funny thing about abundance and the word prosperity is that we tend to connect it with what? Money. Oh, wait, before we get to money, who was somebody was going to the song. Money. We could have done that song today. We had it on deck. We chose for I Am So Blessed. But abundance manifests as money, right? So we got the money in there. But every other good thing required for what? A free and harmonious life. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the word free always attracts me. That's what attracted me to this teaching in the first place, that I could become free by the recalibration of my own mind, my own thoughts, that's what would set me free, and that it was my own thoughts and thinking that imprisoned me. I had the key all along. I just didn't know how. And so I walked into a unity a long time ago, and that's where I learned how. And somebody like me was standing up here all excited and talking about how it works, and yet I was still sitting there confused often. You know, how does it work? How does it work? And we just persist and we keep listening to the nuggets of truth and applying them in our lives. So free and harmonious life. How many want a free and harmonious life? How many of you believe money is the source of that? Okay, now, I think sometimes we do. Do we not? Do we not? Let's be real. We got to be real. Sometimes we confuse the source of it. Do we not? So what we're doing now is we're calling ourselves out. We're calling ourselves out, and we're going to apply these principles to everything. And it's going to look like we're applying it to money right now, but it applies to everything. Remember I said how we do some things is how we do all things? And how we do some things and how we do all things. Sometimes we can use that to beat us up. Well, I'm lazy in this area, so it means I'm lazy in that area. Have you ever done that? And it's just the way I am. No. Your spiritual friends here are going to cancel that out for you. And they're going to say, I don't buy that. I know who you really are. You're really a child of God. You're an emanation of spirit. So that is, excuse me, BS. It's BS. It is a belief system that doesn't work, right? It's a belief system that doesn't work. You need a new BS. You might as well. We're making it up anyway. Make it up good. Make it up really good. And so how we do some things is how we do all things. The way I mean this is how we apply principle in one area of our lives is the exact same way we apply it in other areas of our lives. So we're going to talk about perhaps money and abundance in that particular way. But guess what? The same formula applies to your relationships, applies to your health and well-being, applies to your idea of a healthy ego, because there is a healthy ego, aligned and surrendered to spirit that operates and functions in this experience. So a free and harmonious life from abundance. So money, what is money? Oh, good job. Money is a medium of exchange. That's all it is. It's a medium of exchange. It sure is a whole lot easier to give money than to give a chicken, or to give, the barter system. I mean, it's a symbol of value. It's a measure of value. And it's a means of payment. It's a tool, folks. That's it. That's all. And it got hijacked into meaning and being misconstrued as power. And so what we're saying is no thank you. That is BS. It's an old belief system. It's a false belief system. There's only one power and one presence in all of creation. And that power and presence is God. That power and presence as God is the source and substance of supply of everything you require in this life to be free, to be harmonious. Period, period, period. So we're going to move on from money then. Do I have your permission to? Uh-oh, what's next? I'm almost scared to press this button. Let me think for a minute. Have you ever heard the saying, you're as sick as your secrets? I learned that one in 12-step. So the things that we tend to push aside and tend to hide from ourselves, pretend like they're not there, they operate still. They're still operating in our lives. Everybody else sees it, except you sometimes, right? I always think of it as, I'm not in the shallow end of the pool, and I'm not in the deep end. I'm somewhere in between where the water is about this high. I got a beach ball. And I'm trying to hide this thing I don't want anybody to see represented by the beach ball. I'm trying to push it down under the surface and submerge it into the water and pretend like it's not there. And I can do that for a while, and I can have conversations with you while my arm's holding it down. But at some point, what's going to happen? I'm going to lose my balance, and that beach ball is going to fly out, and it's going to bop you in the head. And you're going to think I meant to do it. You're going to think it was personal. You're going to think it was about you, and it wasn't. It was about me. I was trying to hide something, right? We're as sick as our secrets. Another way of thinking of this is like this. Ever see an elephant in the room? Anybody have an elephant in the room? Any elephants in the room? And this is kind of a fun picture because it dissects the elephant. And it talks about all the different ways that we can hide the things that are operating in our lives. Anybody ever, do the silent treatment and forget something's there, or you divert attention, like I got the ball under here, but I'm going to slide a hand over here. Ignorance. You deny that it's there, you're reluctant, you avoid, there's an awkwardness. Does anybody ever have any elephants in the room? Yeah? So I can tell you about an elephant in my room. This is an old elephant, so it's really easy to talk about. This elephant got exposed about 20-some years ago But I was out living in Los Angeles, California, and I went there employed by somebody in Kansas City area who was employing me, but I was bent on becoming a spiritual practitioner. So I moved to LA, kept my job in Kansas, and at one point I convinced myself that I was ready to earn a living being a spiritual practitioner, even though I was not complete with the program, even though I was living in one of the most expensive areas in the country. And I told my bosses to fire me, to let me go, that I needed to move on in my life because there were things that I needed to do and to follow. But I didn't have another job, and I had no income. And during that time, I had really good credit, and so the bankers were sending me, guess what? You have such good credit, have credit on us. Here's $20,000, here's $10,000. And I started debting. I was debting. And I woke up one day and it felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest and I couldn't breathe. And when I came to, and I was in classes that taught about these spiritual principles, I decided that I had to dedicate my life to the source, which is God. And I had to stop doing what I was doing, which was debting. And I had to start earning. And I had to practice these principles. And what I will tell you is that I was in $50,000 of credit card debt at an extremely high interest. And within a year, it was paid off. And I was in a completely financial new trajectory. That is an example of an elephant in the room. To get to the point where I did, I ignored, I diverted my attention, and I wasn't willing to look at what was so. And so as I was reading this book about abundance and about prosperity, I knew I had experiences that I could share with you about how I turned my financial life around. But I thought, well, wait a second. As I was reading this book, I thought, this community is experiencing something right now. And for those who, at the beginning of our services, often we point to everything that is good and that is positive, but sometimes we sweep aside some of the things, the shadow things that we don't want to look at. And so one of the elephants in the room in our community is that we are functioning and operating at a debt and a loss in this community. And as I was reading through this, I thought, what better way to bring the community together and to practice the principles of this teaching? And if you're not embedded in this community and a part or a member of the community, that's okay, because the principles will apply in another area of your life. So each lesson will still be sufficient and meet a need for everyone sitting here. And so I'm going to have you check in with yourself right now. Take a breath with me. Notice what you notice. Are you uncomfortable? Are you curious? Because what I want to train us to do with the elephants, no pun intended, you train an elephant, what I want us to do is when we notice an elephant in the room, that we all go, what? Where is it? Let me see it. I want to see it. Show it to me. Now, why would I say that? It's bringing us to healing. Oh my goodness gracious, something's being revealed that we get to look at. We get to apply these principles, and we get to rise into a free and harmonious life where we know that God is our source and nothing else. The only reason we wouldn't look is if we're afraid. And there is no fear in God consciousness. And if we feel afraid, it's okay, because we have one another to buoy us up. And so I thought I would share where we're at in the community, because this is data that will be shared with the community, and I'm doing it now, but it will appear in an e-blast, and it will be part of our forums. Now, this information has not been hidden from anybody. It's posted on the wall. It's spoken at our meetings, and it, it's basically public information. But if you can't see it, it shows that our income is less than our expenses. And it shows how we are doing, how we did in July, and how we're doing year to date. Now, I want to say, hello, let's celebrate the abundance of this community. That 100% of those gifts came from you, came from this community. Over $200,000 this year so far to support this community. I want you to look to your left and to your right and say thank you. Thank you for being so generous with this community. Thank you for your generosity and for showing your abundance. Thank you. And the other thing I want to show you is that this is what the year to date is. This individual here was $50,000 in debt in 2003. We represent a huge community. This is, in many ways, nothing in the face of God. Nothing when God is the source. But it is something, and we just need to look at it and to feel what we feel with this. And so this is simply data. And what this little book says is that data and facts and anything that is in the world of appearances is merely an outpicturing of our consciousness. Not only an outpicturing of our consciousness, an outpicturing of our former belief system. It's an old belief system, and the moment that we wish to shift and change it, it will shift and change. And we don't need to gnash our teeth. We don't need to blame ourselves. We just need to look at what is so and remember God is our source. God, consciousness is our source. It is lavish, it is abundant, it meets every single need that we have, no matter what the need is. And it fulfills every single desire of the heart. So our vision is a desire of the heart. Our vision, which is, I always do this to myself. I know this vision. What's our vision? A spiritually awakened world living in peace, love, and joy. Are you ready to spiritually awaken? Because here's a great opportunity to do so right now with this, with one shift of consciousness. Can you imagine the transformation of lives when one person in this community isn't afraid of that and remembers God consciousness and understands that this consciousness of lavish supply and abundance meets every single need? Can you imagine that? That we demonstrated here in our community in integrity. We celebrate things, we celebrate the gifts, and we also look at what may appear as a shadow together. Why? Is it an elephant? What are we going to do when we see an elephant? Wow, good. We're going to be curious. We're going to say, yeah, how'd it get there? Who cares? We're going to do something different. So that's kind of what we're up to right now. Take a breath with me, because it's time to close. Oh, I know. The principles in this book address everything that we have talked about. Why is it a prayer of abundance? Why are we going to do over the next couple weeks a prayer of abundance? Because we have identified something, and we're going to practice as a community. We've identified something. We could call it an elephant in the room, but all I know is that it is simply data that just demonstrates for us, puts the light bulb on for us to say, oh, my consciousness maybe hasn't been God consciousness in this area. That's all. And all this is, it's showing me my former consciousness, my former belief system. I'm going to try on a new belief system. Anybody willing to try on that new belief system with me? Okay, so we're going to continue this prayer next week and the following week. So any good prayer begins with identifying a condition. A condition appears to be lack. It will then state what the purpose of the prayer is. Folks, the purpose of the prayer is to realize abundance as our lives, as our experience. The purpose of the prayer is to realize that God is the source, substance, and supply of our abundance now, my abundance. And what we're going to learn is that you are the source of your own abundance when you unify in God consciousness, so that the divine presence that we are is the source, the substance, and the supply that meets every need. Now, there's a bunch of small print up there, and it's called a declaration. Those who will be joining the class on Wednesday will receive this, and those who bought the book, it's on page 28. It's on page 28. And I'm going to speak this as we begin to move into prayer now. And I'm going to speak this, and I just invite you to listen as if you're already in prayer. And why wouldn't you be? Because we're going to pause here. We're going to take a breath. And if you so choose, at some point, I'm going to invite you to speak this declaration at a future date for yourself. But I speak it for us all now. And I speak it in this sanctuary. That today is a line of demarcation, because this day, August 24th, and I'm speaking it in the first person, so own this for yourself in your own mind. This day, August 24th, I cease believing in visible money as my supply and my support. And I view the world of effect as it truly is, simply an outpicturing of my former beliefs. I believed in the power of money. Therefore, I surrendered my God-given power and authority to an objectified belief. I believed in the possibility of lack, thus causing a separation in consciousness from the source of my supply. I believed in mortal man and carnal conditions, and through this faith gave man and conditions power over me. I believed in the mortal illusion created by the collective consciousness of error thoughts, and in so doing, I have limited the unlimited. Take a breath here. Say this part with me. No more, no more, no more. This day, I renounce my so-called humanhood and claim my divine inheritance as a being of God. This day, I acknowledge God and only God as my substance, my supply, and my support. I take a breath here. This is the purpose of my prayer. And my prayer of abundance turns my consciousness and my awareness to God and only God as the source that is limitless, that is unfailing, as the supply and support that is lavish, that is a divine idea that meets every need, that fulfills every desire that I may have. Having turned from the world of effect to the world of God consciousness, I have taken my power back. I am filled with the power of God. I am filled with divine ideas and inspiration. And I walk forth letting love lead the way. I see, sense, and know that this divine abundant supply is everywhere. All I need to do is look for it, and it reveals itself to me. It reveals itself to me as right and perfect resources, as freedom, as harmony, as resources that support this community, as the divine connection that we experience right here and right now. I take a breath here. And I say that I am so blessed. I am so thankful for all that I have, for all that I receive. And in my pausing, I just allow a moment of silence to wash over me as I accept any gifts of spirit that descend into my awareness now.